Hi, I'm John Penny, the Opinion Engagement Editor at the Poughkeepsie Journal. You're looking at the Poughkeepsie Journal offices, and today we have with us Town of Fishkill Supervisor Bob LaColla. Bob, we're here. We were hoping to have an editorial board meeting with the two candidates for this position. Albra was asked to participate and said that he could not make it today, nor could he make it over a 4-week span of dates that we would have tried to get both of you in the same room at the same time. So we regret that decision, but we're going to need to move on. I just want to give you a couple of minutes if you have any opening statement about why you're running for office. We'll go from there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm a big believer in the Fourth Estate. It's what keeps our government moving and honest and drives integrity into the system. Professionally and at heart, I'm a builder and a small business person. And I love the promise of the United States and the free enterprise system. But I also believe strongly in community service and giving something back. For the past 30 years, I've been an active member of numerous organizations, PTAs, Boy Scouts, trade associations, historic societies, charities, and public school systems. My journey in local government began 13 years ago. I got involved with the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee at the town level, then from there onto the planning board. Through my business, I was familiar with land use issues and development, and I just wanted to give something back to the place my family called home. I was also curious to see what happens in government. We learn about it in school, yet there are very few people that can articulate what exactly happens inside of governments. So once I got on the town board, I sought to learn everything I could about government and public service. There are many opportunities, Dutchess County Planning, New York State Comptroller, New York State Department of State, as well as Cornell University, PACE, Land Use, Law Center. Mm-hmm. They all provide courses that help me understand how the game's played. The more I learned, the more it appeared that there were things amiss in the town. It didn't seem to be functioning correctly. It didn't seem to be operated properly. And it seemed that the town was being run to a catchphrase, a tax rate, a single indicator. And the results were disastrous, as you know. Those conditions led me to seek a town board seat where I thought I could help from there. When I got boxed out of that, I ran for supervisor. In 2011, I ran on 3 simple goals. 1 was to balance budgets. 2 was to open the town and all its dealings to the public and the press. And 3 was to eliminate the deficit. And I believe I've delivered on those commitments, those promises I made. We now hold all our meetings in the evening, and all of them, town board, planning board, zoning board, they're all streamed live and broadcast on local TV. The town website now displays most of the information that the public seeks. We balanced our first 3 budgets. In fact, those budgets have delivered surpluses. And finally, we completely eliminated the general fund deficit in the first 3 years. It was a year ahead of schedule. Some of the decisions we made to get there were tough. They were hard to accept by some of the people in the town. We did raise the tax rate, but the additional funds we generated went where they were supposed to go. They went to pay down deficit, they went to pay down the debt, and they went to improve our credit rating so we could borrow at a better rate. We're now in the position to accelerate. We haven't foregone legacy projects. We've got some trails projects going. There's for the first time in 2016, we're set to get back on a sustainable program of road maintenance and paving. And one of those trail projects is going to be done at almost no cost to our taxpayers. It's being done with outside money. So I'm eager to discuss those and any other issues.
Yeah,
today.
that actually plays off well because we're gonna let's start going forward, then we'll go back a little bit. So. We do want to get into some of the things that have happened over the 4 years, but your first 4 years. But we do want to say, what are your specific goals going forward? What would they be?
Well, we see a changing demographic in New York. The population is aging. A lot of people are moving away. what we need to do is make our town attractive to young people, keeping families together, driving in new talent. And we've seen, as you see in Beacon, if you create, a great environment, vibrant environment where cars aren't a necessity, and there are amenities nearby, breakneck hiking, the arts, that you can draw people in. So that's our goal, is to set up to make sure that our built environment is ready to take on new challenges, whether that's the new amenities like the trail system, or making sure our water and sewer systems are ready for any new growth, any new business opportunities, right down to making sure that our police are delivering top-shelf service, that all of our roads are in great shape. You don't have to worry about driving down the road and hitting a pothole, getting a flat. It's simple things,
Right.
So from the simple to the compelling, I think it's all on us.
And let's talk a little bit about the town's finances, because that is obviously where you started. There was quite the mess when you took over, and the state audit at that time said that there were chronic fund deficits caused by poor budgeting practices. Mm-hmm. The town rating funds that were supposed to be dedicated for specific purposes, such as for water and sewer, to cover other revenue shortfalls. And Fishkill didn't pay those accounts back in a timely fashion. Now, subsequent controller reports have been much more favorable. I've said things are much better, but it still has taken some issue with this interfund transfer situation. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I can't say for sure, but it seemed like the pile of interfund transfers that had accumulated was over $11 million for quite a while. I believe was set to mask what the true deficit was. Now, you can net those down, you can trade them off until you get to the point where you don't have any money to move. If it were that simple. Unfortunately, going through and making sure you're auditing everything correctly to make sure that the money's moving where it's supposed to be takes quite a bit of work. We've netted it down. I believe we're below $3 million now. My controller is telling me we should have that netted down to near zero by the end of this year. So we agree with the controller's office. They never should have been there the way they were. We're working diligently to get those eliminated completely. And now we have the funds in the bank. So when you get down to the bottom, if you have to move X amount of dollars into a bank account, we can do that. We have the cash to do that.
And one of the things several things you had to do to deal with this shortfall was in 2013, it was a substantial tax hike. And sewer and water rates have increased also dramatically. How have you handled dealing with what I would imagine has been a fair amount of public blowback from that? How do you get the public to buy into that? And I believe some of these kind of came a little bit earlier. Some of the more dramatic increases came earlier, and you've been able to. The increases have not been to that level that they were maybe in 2013. Do you feel like you're getting in a better place where you're not going to have to hit taxpayers with these types of increases?
Oh, yeah. We have 32 distinct taxing districts. So the number that you hear is the general fund increase. And there are 4 general funds. 2 of those had increased their parent 53%. But in aggregate, each person's tax bill is a little bit different. And
Sure.
I think you probably remember a member of the previous administration kind of famously said, well, we've been robbing Peter to pay Paul. The way the government's structured is on a concept of fairness. So if you get a service, you pay for that service. If your neighbor gets a service, you don't pay for his service. You just pay for yours.
Right.
So what we've had to do is go through and restructure our finances so that people were truly paying for what they were getting. Now, some rates went up, some actually went down. So in aggregate, for instance, we pulled my opponent's tax bill. Over the 4 years, he had gone up about 36% in rate. So in actual dollars, so that he's paying 36% more than when we started in 2012. There have been some claims it's 100, 150%. It hasn't been near that. The 53 was that was the highest increase we had out of all of our taxing districts. In aggregate, it was quite a bit less. Since then, according to the state calculation, which says you have to stay under that 2% cap, we've stayed under that. So we broke it that first year in 2013. The next 2 budgets were under the cap. And this year, our levy is actually about 2.5% below our 2015 spending. So it's actually, our actual levy is less, so it's well under the cap. It gets us close to 3 points under what the allowable cap is.
Now,
I'm sorry, Bob, you're bringing in less money from taxes than you need for the budget. Did I hear that?
So if you compared our spending from 2015 to what's proposed, now this is my budget that I delivered to the board.
Right.
It's subject to revision.
Right.
But what we laid on the table with capital, our capital plan started and equipment purchases in there, is it's over 2.5% less in terms of tax levy. Now, we have multiple streams of revenue. Most of them have stayed the same: mortgage tax, sales tax. What's left over after those revenues come in is what we have to charge our residents.
Right. Okay.
That levy amount is actually down.
but again, that's a proposal, and historically, we have seen where an executive will offer a budget, and there might be things that are not in it that the town board might think needs to be in it, right? I mean, so we'll have to see how that shakes
It's
out.
possible they'll see things in it that they don't want in it.
Right, that's very true. So this dovetails nicely into asking about the property tax cap. You've been dealing with the property tax cap one way or another for years. What do you make of it? Do you think it's sustainable? Should it stay on the books?
I think it's driven a conversation that's healthy. That's how much are we spending. Now, what's funny is the state is asking for all the municipalities to stay under the cap, but then they'll cite municipalities for not taking care of their roads, which are expensive to maintain. So I think it's a good conversation starter, but in the end, it's diet by belt. Just squeezing the budget doesn't necessarily mean that you're managing the town well, and that's what we look at. Our residents expect a certain level of service, whether it's police or roads or building department. There's myriad things that residents come to us for. The condition of the parks. We have to make sure we're maintaining that well, which I think we have done. We also need to make sure that we're doing it efficiently and cost effectively, which we do. We benchmark all the time. We look to see how our neighbors are doing. In fact, you hear about state contract or county contracts. We adopted a policy, it's called best value. So as long as we can beat somebody's price, we can buy. A lot of times, like as a business person, I know that if I have to guarantee a price for a year, it's not necessarily the lowest price. I'm going to have to make sure that I can maintain that for an entire year. We find that we usually get a better value than some of these big bulk contracts get. So again,
you say it's been a conversation. It's been good for the conversation, but you also you're certainly not embracing it so warmly. Do you think it should be repealed or changed or amended in some way?
For us, for our town, I don't want to speak for any other electeds, any other jurisdictions. For us, we're managing well now, with or without the tax cap. If we found out tomorrow that we needed to break it for a reason, and it was for good reason, I would raise that as an issue.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Try to do it at least. Yeah. Okay.
I think.
So you think it should stay on the books then? You think it's workable, or you could work around it or work with it?
We've been able to work around it. We broke it one year. We stayed under it 2. We're below it this year.
Right.
So, as long as we're looking at the right stuff, which is, the town government as an organization, that we're looking at all aspects of it, that that's functioning well, that we're operating with financial stewardship, doing the right thing for the right reasons in a cost-effective way. That's our primary goal.
And as we talk about budgets and revenue, there's obviously the revenue side, and there's also the expenditure side, the savings, possible savings side. What is your view of this effort about shared services? The county, for example, has a program that allows municipalities to apply for our shared services incentive money. Has the town made use of that? And what do you see going forward? Is there any? And it doesn't necessarily just have to be the county money, because there is a little bit of state money for that too. But where are you on this issue?
Well, I'm actually on the committee that helps decide where that money goes, and we've been fortunate enough to participate in a couple of studies. They've been going through Beacon, but we have been full participants in it. One was a study of consolidation of sewer districts, making the Village of Fishkill, the Town of Fishkill, and the City of Beacon, one district. Another one that we're just starting up now is looking at a consolidation of police departments.
What police departments would be?
The same group, the village. Keep in mind, the Town of Fishkill completely surrounds the Village of Fishkill and completely surrounds the City of Beacon. Right. So we think we may be able to find efficiencies in terms of coverage. And
is there anything besides studies that you have done? Is there any tangible thing that you have benefited from this program from that's been up for a couple of years now?
Well, it's helped us identify potential sources. Again, from a management perspective, what we've got to do is survey and see what assets we have available. When I came in, especially in terms of water and sewer, I had no maps. We had no full inventory of infrastructure. I couldn't tell you what we had where. We now have that full inventory, and that's off of the study. It's got us in a position now where we can look at making improvements.
Are you in favor of any of these mergers, particularly the police departments?
If it improves service or saves money or a combination of both. I've studied myself 3 or 4 different initiatives, a 4-way tax assessor program, and a lot of times you'll find that you really don't see the savings in it, and there isn't a net benefit to service delivery. So we want to make sure we're still looking at the bottom line, that we're not looking for.
How far are you along to making a decision, to making this analysis, getting this analysis done to make a decision?
Well, unfortunately, we had a little hiccup. One of the partners, Village of Fishkill, backed out of the sewer deal at the very end, which, we had all the calcs done for a 3-way deal.
And you would have done that? You would have supported that?
Yeah, and the mayor now is, and his people down in the city are looking to try to recast that so the town and the city can go forward on a program.
What about police?
Police, that study's just getting underway now. I think we have our first meeting in the next week or 2.
How many police officers are we talking about, or police department personnel? What do you have in the town, village, Beacon, to the best of your knowledge?
I don't have the counts on the city and the village. We have about 43 uniformed officers. They're part-time. They work 6-hour shifts, which keeps our cost very low. I think we're about $2.2 million this year. It's about half the cost of a full-time department in many of the neighboring jurisdictions. The Village of Fishkill also has a part-time department. The City of Beacon has a full-time department. So it's not an easy it's not an easy study, but.
And what's your total town, the size of your payroll in terms of bodies, part-time or full-time now versus when you took office?
I think it's slightly higher. I believe we're like 1.1, 1.2 for the police department in payroll.
Okay. Well, just the entire Town of Fishkill payroll. What is how many people do you have on payroll now?
No, I believe
versus when you came into office. Yeah, not just police, but highway, clerical.
I believe we're around 4 million all in.
And how many people is that?
About 124 regular, and then we have the accounts swell in the summertime with recreation.
Seasonal, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how does that compare to when you took office?
It's relatively close. We did some rearranging. We eliminated a couple of positions. We created a couple of new ones. So it's probably close to the same count.
Let's talk a little bit about economic development and planning in the town. The town had been kind of viewed as this, had a 1/3 formula, 1/3 open space, 1/3 residential, and 1/3 commercial. That was something that the former supervisor used to espouse a lot. Do you know, is that about where the town is on that? And there's obviously been of late Jehovah's Witnesses come in with another property that would be exempt. And what are the trend lines? Where are the trend lines going? And are you concerned about them, or do you think that this is the way things are going, or are fine?
Well, what I've seen is we've been finishing up. The developer's been finishing some projects that were residential, completely residential. I hadn't seen much in the way of commercial development. Over the past year and a half, I've seen a lot more commercial interest coming forward. What I have seen a lot of is either senior or assisted living coming into the area. And I don't know that that's the best path to follow. To me, that's, if you're looking at the baby boomer population bubble, that might last another 15 years or so. and then we've got a lot of housing that's set up for a population that might not exist anymore. But lately I've seen some other commercial interests coming forward. Again, a lot of tire kicking, nothing solid. The third, we have a lot of steep slopes and a lot of land that's going to be open space. Scenic Hudson has been working hard to secure what they consider critical view sheds and sensitive lands. We've got Stony Kill to the north side of the town. So I think we're always going to have that calc in there. But if you look at where we are, we're a transportation hub. We've got 84 running through it. We've got 9. You've got the train station in Beacon. You got Stewart right across the way. So you've got the river, you've got the rail, you've got the highway, and an airport right across the way. So I think we're always going to see developmental pressure. I think our job is to make sure that we build it in a way that makes it attractive and livable. As a builder, I'm sensitive to that. 2 years ago, for instance, we adopted a complete streets policy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, that was the first one in the county to have done it. The county hasn't even adopted that as a policy yet. They were tremendously helpful in helping us draft our policy, but we see that as an amenity. It's one of those unseen amenities that just makes a place more comfortable to live, more attractive to work.
But complete streets doesn't always necessarily. It basically says that you have to look. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to act. Have you acted on that in terms of making it so? And my understanding is that it's making sure that it has pedestrian, biking paths and that kind of thing. But it basically, again, my understanding of that law makes you. It basically makes it so that you have to show that you looked at it, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it.
Right, and we didn't just build some construct that somebody else manufactured. What we're hoping to do is incentivize this through the process, rather than compel and dictate. Look for ways that make sense.
Has there been examples that it's been actually used?
Not yet. We've been in the uncomfortable position of not seeing a lot of new development, and our paving program has been out the window. We haven't had the money to pave. Like I said, next year we're planning to pave 4.5 miles of road. This is really our first opportunity to do that. And just yesterday, there was a federally sponsored program that put together these complete street workshops. State DOT, through the county, came to us and asked if we'd sponsor that. So we had planners, engineers, a lot of people in the business, county folks, people from DOT in our town hall yesterday for a full-day seminar. And people were pretty excited about what they saw, and I think it helped get the understanding level up with the people that have to implement
What about this issue of land coming off the tax rolls? Are you concerned about this?
Yeah. It's RLUIPA. It's a federal law that drives this. New York State happens to be one of the most generous with the way they interpret that. So when not-for-profits come to us, it's kind of out of our hands. We've got to accept the existing law. However, back in May, we reached out to our state representatives and asked if we could just open a conversation to make sure that this is supposed to be, a community agreement, that we're allowing this in a way that most people find constructive. There should be some community benefit, and there should be some accommodation for cost. And I think we've seen that in Fairview. They've talked about going to a pilot with the schools to help pay for the fire district up there. We just want to make sure that we're having that conversation, that we're looking at this. The laws have been changed in a long time, and we think we should take a good look at it. Pardon me?
You think you'll get it? Will the religious organization write a check to you that's not taxes, but might cover incurred or expected costs that might defray your revenue loss?
It's got to be a possibility. Where it goes, we can't control that, but and I can understand a reluctance of some people to come to the table thinking that things are going to be mandated one way or another. There'll be drastic changes. But really, simply what we're asking for is a conversation. Let's just all get around the table and talk about it. And are there opportunities to enhance the laws that are on the books, create a better understanding, make sure that all parties understand the impacts? That's really our intent.
And what would be for the folks watching, what would be the dollar loss if that property comes off the rolls?
We were looking at, with the first two properties, I understand there's a memorandum of understanding on another property, but that hasn't been closed yet. So for the two properties that were purchased, the town will see roughly $100,000 in tax revenue that would have to be redistributed, collected from the
Find it somewhere else.
the other properties in town.
Let's talk a little bit more in detail about economic development, your vision for the town. We've talked, for example, the master plan. If you look at the master plan about where development would be, the key corridors of development are 9, 9D, 52, and 82. Would you agree with that, or where are you looking to see where? Do you see any trends in terms of where development is coming?
Yeah, we're working with the county right now and Pace Land Use Law Center to do a study of the area south of the stadium. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a no man's land with the current zoning. But what we found too is the town itself is kind of leggy. With the natural constraints, you have the Fishkill Creek, you've got the mountains, you've got Stony Kill. It tends to be kind of linear. So we're looking for maybe smaller hamlet-style development in areas that make sense. So where you have a certain density of population trying to develop smaller centers. And we may see one right near Town Hall, south of the stadium, which could become a commuter-type village. So we're looking for those type of opportunities. Now it takes developers to come forward that agree with that kind of vision, and we want to be in a position to creatively think through this. We just want to take
so
some
south
of
of the village,
you're
close to a major intersection there. I mean, how much? Where are you talking? Is there land that's? Is it what's there now in terms of what would be where that would be? Exactly?
South of the stadium?
Yeah, I'm sorry, south of the stadium.
There's an old lumberyard. There's some storage facilities. There's an old general contracting yard that's for sale. There's some trailer homes. There's an intermodal site. It's basically a parking lot. I don't think it gets used much unless there's a game. There's a tourism building there, and then Beacon has their bus garage in the back. But we're combining that with several things that are going on. The state is looking to redevelop Camp Beacon, which is just on the other side of 84. The 90-84 intersection has problems. It's one of the worst in the county. And we proposed a creative solution with DOT where we would reverse the exit ramp going onto 9D, turn that into an entrance ramp, so we'd stop all that left-hand turning traffic during rush hour, trying to get onto the bridge. DOT is looking at it. If we do that, there might be some easy on-off ramps close to the stadium so that traffic can stack then next to on that stadium road. Would then allow for an improvement of the underpass under 84 and possibly provide for a better development package to come forward on the Camp Beacon site.
Very good.
So we're trying to stir a lot of pots.
Okay. Well, could you give us an update on the Chevron Texaco property and what's going on there?
I tell you what, they run a tight corporate ship. There's not a lot they're saying. I heard they had a development team put together. I called a couple of members of that development team recently, and I was told that they haven't heard from them in months. Someone else told me that they heard that they're looking at it being a development deal. It might be 10 years away.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough to say what they're going to do. We've got some plans in place, so if it does happen, we want to straighten out some of the road structure in there. If you remember when Texaco was in operation,
yes, very much so.
They used to have to let the shifts go in half-hour increments just for the traffic problems. So we've got, working with the county, we've got some plans in place to develop some new road network in there to alleviate that problem.
Is there anything the town can do while this is, if it's going to be, nothing's going to happen on that site for that long? I mean, is there anything the town can do around it or near it, or is it just?
I think what we're fighting right now is cheap gas. Money that Chevron had a couple of years ago, I think is not as available as it.
Are you still getting tax revenue from that property?
Oh, yeah.
You should be, because it's privately owned.
Yeah.
What about some of the controversy at the Fishkill Supply Depot? There's been a lot of concern about the development around there. What do you make of that?
It's funny. The site itself, folks want to honor because of what it represents. American Revolution, established a democratic form of government, and what we see is a very democratic form of government in action there. There are those that want to preserve the site. There are those that don't want to see any activity at all there. There are some that would like to see that development. They think it's honoring what happened there, and it's a community conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that develop. You know, they're both making cases.
You like to see the conversation develop, or you like to
yeah.
see the site develop? What do you think?
The conversation.
What do you think about the development that's been offered or suggested?
You know, they have it as of right. I think, you know, the real unfortunate part of this is that the entire site was lost to development when the mall went in.
Right.
The Desert Mall went in. What's left now is not that large. What the developer's proposing is to bring more people closer to it. I've heard from historians that seem to be on both sides of the fence with it. You know, I'd like to see it more fully developed. I don't feel ready to take a hard position on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you have land rights versus preservationists, and they both make compelling arguments. Like I said, I'd like to see it develop.
Town, like many towns, you know, struggles on some issues in terms of, you know, where's a town center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's different town centers, and that could be problems for anyone, but it certainly could be problems for seniors and youth programs. Or can you talk a little bit about seniors and youth in the town, and what the government, if anything, you think government's role in helping them, or, you know, doing things for them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I work with the Kent County, you know, Office of the Aging and Transportation and Housing. You know, the idea of aging in place creates problems. You know, we have seniors that are living in homes that need to be maintained. Roofs have to be replaced, snow has to be shoveled, lawns have to be mowed. And, you know, there's a compelling argument for, hey, let's look for places that are closer to downtown centers where you can walk. And we have been working with the county on trying to develop that. Another thing that we're doing is working with Cynthia Ruiz in transportation. They're about to roll out a flex bus transit program. And the idea is, if somebody's within 3/4 of a mile of an established route, they can call to have that bus break off that route, come pick them up, and then move them on their way. So we are concerned. We have a full-time senior coordinator at our rec facility. You know, I think we have to provide facilities for everybody. We can't go overboard with it. But you know, we do support the seniors with our programs. We do work with transportation to help get them around, and we do try to incentivize, you know, compact and livable communities so people can move around, shop close to where they live.
What about for younger people?
Younger people have it tough. You know, a lot of them coming out of school now, and they've got the equivalent of a home mortgage without a home, and
Right.
they're struggling to find jobs. Again, that's where we have to make sure that our town is ready to accept new enterprises, new businesses that are willing to hire people, and that we're set up so that it's an area that young people find attractive.
Mm-hmm. How do you work on economic development? Are you working with other, like, for example, the county? Do you feel like there's a sense that there's a strategy that's being looked at in terms of identifying places in the town that might be good for development? And can you talk specifically about any examples of that?
Yeah, we like I said, we look for those areas. We're looking south of the stadium. I've been working with owners that are looking to get their properties developed or redeveloped. Often it's just a matter of trying to make sure that all the people that need to be in a deal are together.
Mm-hmm.
And having come from the business, there's, you know, you routinely see deals that take 5, 6, 7, 8 years
Right.
to develop. In the village of Fishkill, there was one owner there, I think he's going on 10 years in trying to pull something together. And, you know, the market moves. And
Yeah, the recession really
Yeah.
even changed the numbers dramatically on that, where we're seeing things that might have been developed in 5 years and now are going to take 15 because of that, you know, 4 or 5 years on either side of the recession.
Right.
that have really slowed up a lot of things.
So if we can put ourselves in a ready state, so we're ready to accept new business, we can plug them into our water, we can plug them into our sewer systems, that our road network's ready to accept them, and we keep a tax rate that's low enough that they don't feel they're getting priced out of their market. There are some municipalities where the tax cost is significant. It's a part of the business decision of whether the pro forma works.
Talk a little bit about the rails system that I know Scenic Hudson's involved in that, I believe, and some others. What are you looking specifically to do with that?
This is a great story of crossing, geographic boundaries and political boundaries and agency boundaries. We're together with about 14 different agencies right now. Scenic Hudson has really been phenomenal in helping marshal this process. But the idea is to connect the Village Cold Spring train station with the City of Beacon train station. Mm-hmm. It's been titled the Hudson Fjord Trail. We were fortunate enough to get, in the last CFA round, an award of about $935,000. But that's leveraging some private money, about $3 million in private money. That's coming from an individual who sees this as a legacy project and really wants to help make it happen. So we're going to be working on a $4 million section of trail that would connect the whistle stop on Metro North to the main trailhead at Breakneck, right by the tunnel there. Mm-hmm. It also is developing parking, so that parking problem that's down there where people are parking both sides of the street, we can get a lot of those cars off the road and create a safer environment for the hikers.
So what's the time frame of that, and is there also other monies available to do that?
Yeah, the money's been committed. So right now we went through an RFP to get design documents and construction documents done. We're about to award that. They should be done with the design docs and the construction bid process by the end of summer next year, mm-hmm. and then we'd be good to go into the ground.
Okay. You have any questions?
Two quick questions, Bob. One of the, what do you feel the perception is of the town of Fishkill by outsiders? And I'm not necessarily, it's a nice place to live, but in terms of the community itself, you govern one of the busiest intersections in the county, if not the busiest. Mm-hmm. Where a lot of people, they drive in, they run, they shop, and they drive out. And they don't even know where they are. Yeah. So how do you sort of brand Fishkill?
Well, it's still very much a small town community, and when you look at the people that are doing things in the community, our police, our firefighters, the guys in the highway garage, a lot of them are firefighters, and I see them everywhere. A couple of them work for our parks department, and I'll give you, for instance, there was a March of Dimes event at one of our parks. I saw one of our buildings and grounds guys jumping on a fire truck, heading out on a call. I got to the March of Dimes event, and he had just left there. He just, on a Saturday, on his own time, he just went in to go check to see how everything was going. Mm-hmm. I think that sense of community is still there, and the people that live there get that. So we try to honor that by keeping everything honest, keeping everything open. When people have an issue, we try to respond to it right away. I think the perception inside the town, for the most part, is this is a great place to live. From the outside, I think you do get the drive-bys and say, oh yeah, that's a big intersection there, and then they got the Walmart, which helps us. Having all that business there helps keep the tax rates down. So it's a pleasant inconvenience. But I think for the most part, it's from so many places in the town, you have these dramatic mountain views. You have a lot of amenities. It's an easy ride into the city. You have everything that Dutchess County has to offer, kayaking to hiking to the arts. I think it's an easy place to live.
So if reelected, your number one got to do it priority is what?
Oh, to keep us moving ahead. We've got the fire out now, and we've
financially
we've started to rebuild. What we want to do now is make sure that we're ready, like I was saying before, that we're in a ready state, that we're keeping our rates reasonable, that we're delivering high-level service, that we've got that we've got our responsibilities handled. Our roads are in good shape. Our police are doing a great job. The infrastructure is built out and well maintained. So if somebody wants to come in, they want to invest in the community, we're ready for them.
What about capital projects? What do you see going forward?
Next year, like I said, we've got 4.5 miles of road scheduled on the budget. We also are looking for something that's an outreach to the public, digitizing all our records. Now, that's something most towns did years ago, and they did it with grant money. For some reason, Fishkill didn't get on that boat, but we're ready to do that going into this year, and we're investing in some new equipment. Not all of it's done with cash. We are going to do some lease arrangements. There is a little bit of borrowing, but we're very sensitive to making sure that Moody's still smiles on us. We've got to get to that next level, and Moody's let us know that they're not going to look at us again until after the election. So we've got to make sure we stay there so that they're going to keep working with us to improve our situation.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
It's been an honor. It's been a lot of work, but it's been an honor. Everybody in Town Hall has really stepped up. Department heads own their departments. I think they're all invested in making sure that they're delivering, great service, and they're doing it at a cost-effective way. I'd be honored if the people of Fishkill brought me back in again, and we could finish what we started.